my dear students. I am Vishali Korapati, Assistant Professor in Vignan University. I teach pharmacology.
Good afternoon, students. Today I am going to take class on anti-anginal drugs. I am Vishali Korapati, Assistant Professor in VFSTR. Okay. So before going to learn about this anti-anginal drugs, let's see what is angina pectoris. Okay. So this angina pectoris is a coronary heart disease. It belongs to coronary heart disease, and why it is caused due to the deficiency of oxygen supply to the heart. Okay, don't get mixed up with heart attack and angina pectoris. Angina pectoris is like the vessels, the arteries won't work properly, that's why we will get this. But heart attack, there a part of the heart won't work, so then the blood supply and everything will get stopped to that part, and eventually that part will stop. That's the difference between angina pectoris and heart attack. Heart attack is only to the one part. Angina pectoris is to the coronary arteries. Okay, ma? So don't get confused with this. It belongs to the blood vessel. So the oxygen supply will get stopped to the heart. Okay. So, what are the symptoms of this angina pectoris? The person who is facing this angina pectoris, first he will get pain, discomfort and pain in his or her chest. Okay, and afterwards neck pain, shoulder pains, and left arm pain. The whole left arm will pain. Okay, ma? These are the symptoms of angina pectoris. The first one is discomfort and pain in chest, and left arm pain, shoulder pain, and neck pain. Okay, so this is angina pectoris. So, if you see, these are the coronary arteries which are very healthy. This doesn't have any atherosclerosis or anything else. But if you see here, what is happening? A layer of atherosclerosis, that means plaque, is forming in the arteries. When there is plaque inside the layers of the arteries, what will happen? The blood won't pass properly. Okay, when there is no sufficient blood to the heart, I already told you in my introduction class that when there is no blood supply to the heart, the rhythms will slow down. When eventually in this angina pectoris, the blood supply to the heart will reduce, and at the end point it will stop. Okay, sometimes you will get this substernal pain also. Substernal pain is you will get this pain under the sternum, okay, behind the sternum or below the sternum. Okay, that is called as substernal pain. Okay, so women will face this type of pain later in their age, and men is facing most of these pains. They will have this angina pectoris in early ages, and most affected gender is men only, then women. It's not like women won't get this angina pectoris, but they will face they will be less rate. Okay, so if you see these diagrams, this will show the types of the angina pectoris. First, let's see what are types of angina. Okay, there are three types of angina. First one is stable angina, which is also called as classic angina. And the next one is unstable angina. Okay, and the third one is variant angina. This is also called as Prinzmetal angina or vasospastic angina. Okay, three types. What are there, ma? Stable angina, unstable angina, and variant angina. You can call that Prinzmetal angina. Okay. So let's see the first one, which is stable angina. In the stable angina, what will happen? when the person who have this plague inside his coronary arteries, and when the person is lifting any weights, or when the person is doing any exercise, and that person is going through any emotional problem, even emotion is over laughing and over sadness also. It's not like over sadness only, but over happiness or over sadness, everything comes under emotion only. Okay, in this stage, what will happen, the person's vessel will get enlarged. So in this previous diagram, this is the person vessel when the person is in rest. And if you see this one, when the person is doing exercise, his or her vessel got dilated. So when it got dilated, what will happen, the blood supply won't be sufficient to the heart. How? Think any pipe. So if you are taking any pipe, if the pipe is in normal size, if the flow is correct, then we will get sufficient water supply. Okay, but think the pipe is more, like the pipe diameter is more, and we are getting normal water range. Then what will happen? There won't be any sufficient water supply, right? The same thing is happening here. It should not be over. Think the pipe size is less, okay, and the pressure is normal, and the blood pressure is sorry, the water pressure is normal. Then what will happen, the linings of the pipe will get damaged. Here my blood pressure is normal, my vessel size have increased. So what is happening, but blood supply is not sufficient. At the same time, RBC, hemoglobin carries oxygen, right? So oxygen supply will also reduce. At that time, the person will get this stable angina. Okay. So the next one is, that's why this stable angina is also called as angina of effort. It's not like, you may ask, madam, then if I'm doing exercise, will my will I get angina? No, ma. This is only this angina will this exercise theory will is only suitable for this atherosclerotic patient. If the person is having this plague inside the coronary arteries, then only the person will get angina. If normal people, when they are doing this exercise, their vessels also dilate, but they won't get this angina or any chest pain. This is normal. Okay. The next one is unstable angina. In this unstable angina, this type of angina is caused when the person is in rest, when the person is in sleep. Most of the time we used to hear this type of news is that the person have died in their sleep. So that's because of this unstable angina. Okay, in this, what will happen when the person is in rest, the person won't get this sufficient blood due to the leakage of the uh, arteries, due to the leakage of this plague, atherosclerosis. Okay, when this plague is leaked, what will happen, when it is leaking, it will stop the platelets and other blood components to reach the heart. Gradually, what will happen, all the blood will stop, there won't be any blood supply, usually there won't be any oxygen supply also. At that time, heart will stop pumping. Okay, that is unstable angina. To understand this properly, let me show you one video. So if you see this one, these are the coronary arteries. If you zoom in this coronary arteries, so now we are zooming in this coronary arteries. This is how the blood is flowing in this arteries. Okay, ma? So the person got this plague. Okay, so now the blood flow got reduced. blood flow is there, but the blood flow is reduced. Okay, if you see here, the blood components like platelets, RBC, and everything is getting accumulated. Here in unstable angina, what is happening? This plaque got ruptured. So this blood cells are accumulating here like slowly, and after some time it will stop supplying the platelets and everything. At that time, what will happen? If you see here, it is due to less oxygen and blood supply, this is becoming white. So gradually and the area will get dead, and not only that, heart will stop. So this will happen in unstable angina. This pain starts it will start with little pain, and within minutes or within few hours this will go into severity stage. At this stage the person may if we have recognized this pain earlier, there will be less death chances. Okay ma, the next one is variant angina. This is vasospastic angina. Why it is called as vasospastic angina? Because this is caused due to the spasm of this arteries. Okay, so what will happen? Spasm means we already know that contraction. There will be more contraction. Actually, our heart used to contact like this: slow, contract, and relax, contract and relax. Here what is happening? They will be having more contraction, that too very fast contraction and very sudden contractions. Okay, like this jerking contractions. It's not I can't say it as jerking contraction, but for your understanding I am saying this as jerking contraction. Okay, like this, fast. So when this heart is pumping very fast, what will happen? The walls will get ruptured, isn't it? And this may lead to the person's death also. Okay, the person may die also. And this pain we can't predict when this will happen. This stable angina, when we are doing any work, we will get that. And this unstable angina, when we are taking in rest. But this variant angina, we can't predict it. It may caused when we are in rest, or when we are in working. We don't know that. Okay, so the next one is, what is anti? Now, what are anti-anginal drugs? This anti-anginal drugs are the drugs which will reduce this cardiac work, first thing, and which will reduce the angina pectoris. Okay, that those drugs are called as anti-anginal drugs. So what they will do? Pause this video, and you think which type of drugs we have to suggest for them, what the drug mechanism should be. Okay, pause this video for 1 minute ma, and think about that, and I will be back. Okay, so let's continue with the class. So our drug should be, it should reduce our preload, isn't it? And also it should reduce my afterload. Why I'm talking about preload and afterload? What is preload? The thing which before filling the volume of the stretch, isn't it? How much stretch it is doing the heart walls. So when I'm reducing this preload, this will reduce the load on my arteries, isn't it? And also if I reduce the afterload, it will reduce the venous returns on my arteries. So when there is less venous return, there will be less flow, okay, and less pressure. So that will decrease my arteries pain, isn't it? And the next one is, we have to reduce the cardiac work. Okay, in first one, stable one, when I'm doing more work, it is showing that one. But I have to walk, I have to do something work. So when I'm doing work, it is showing that angina. So it should be like the cardiac work should be reduced, not my work. The cardiac work should be reduced. Okay, so the blood flow to that will be increased. Next one is, so let's see the drugs. So treatment of angina pectoris is done in two main categories. The first one, it should reduce the oxygen demand. That means it's not like I will reduce my oxygen intake. It's like my heart demand will be reduced. Okay, if there is more demand of oxygen, if my heart is saying give me oxygen, give me oxygen, I won't be able to give that much of oxygen, right? That's why I should reduce the, like, my heart should reduce the demand of this oxygen intake. And the next one is increase the oxygen delivery to my myocardium. I have to take more oxygen. Okay, that means increase the blood flow, like hemoglobin should be sufficient to my heart. So these are the anti-anginal drugs, and the main classes of drugs in this anti-anginal drugs are nitrates and calcium channel blockers, even beta blockers. Previously we never used to prefer this beta blockers, but nowadays to maintain the patient's life expectancy, we are using this beta blockers. Okay, beta adrenergic blockers. So let's see the classification now. Nitrates, they are divided into short acting and long acting. In short acting, the main drug is glyceryl trinitrate, isosorbidite dinitrate. In long acting, the first drug is isosorbidite dinitrate and isosorbidite mononitrate. Next one is beta blockers, propanol and etinolol. Calcium channel blockers, verapamil, okay, and amlodipine. Next one is potassium channel openers. Okay, don't get confused. You are hearing all blockers, so don't get confused and don't write potassium channel blockers. These are potassium channel openers. Okay, and the last one is other anti-anginal drugs. So let's see first one. So we have this clinical classification also. So this clinical classification depends, like, this classification is like how we are treating the patient, okay, therapeutically. So the first one is used to abort or terminate attack. Okay, so if the person got attacked, the person came to the hospital, angina. So first thing is we should abort and terminate the attack, isn't it? So for that we will use glyceryl trinitrate and isosorbidate dinitrate. The next one is prophylactic. Prophylactic is if the person have this angina, they have to use this continuously, and it's a preventive measure. Okay, prophylactic means we will use it as a preventive measure. This is only for chronic patients. Okay, ma. So let's see this organic nitrates. We can call it as nitrates also. So the main action of this organic nitrates are smooth muscle relaxants. So let's see. So the main function of this nitrates, I already told you, it is smooth muscle relaxant. So how it is doing? It is doing vasodilation. Okay, so the vasodilation means it is the function of parasympathetic nervous system, isn't it, ma? If you have studied in parasympathetic nervous system, this vasodilation, this is the function of parasympathetic nervous system. Okay, so let's get into the mechanism of this nitrates. So what is happening? So when this nitrates, they enter into the cell of this smooth muscle. So now this is going into the cells of the smooth muscle. When it enter, due to some enzymes in that cells, it is converted into nitric oxide, which is a free radical. Okay, from this nitric oxide it is converted into guanyl cyclase enzyme, okay, which is soluble. Okay, it is converted into guanyl cyclase. So this guanyl cyclase, what it will do, it will convert GDP into GTP. Okay, the function of GDP is increasing CGMP. Okay, ma. So why we got CGMP here? I already told you vasodilation is parasympathetic function. So in every parasympathetic function, the main second messenger will be and should be this CGMP. So my nitrate, what it is doing, it is increasing my CGMP, which is our secondary messenger. So as this is secondary messenger, this should dephosphorylate or phosphorylate. Okay, as this is increasing, here it is doing dephosphorylation. Okay, what it is doing, ma? Dephosphorylation of MLCK. MLCK means myosin light chain kinase. What is this myosin light chain kinase function? So this myosin light chain kinase will activate myosin. I hope you remember in skeletal muscle, we will be having muscle fibers. In that muscle fiber, you will be having three types of filaments. One is myosin filament, and the other one is actin filament and titin filament. If you see this myosin filament, this will be in middle and it will grab the actin. When it is grabbing the actin, it will contract the muscle. Okay, the same thing will happen here. So this MLCK function is, it will activate the myosin. So myosin will activate the actin, which in turn, like, it will drag the actin. So when it is dragging the actin, it will contract. So now the arteries are contracting. Okay, so but what my CGMP is doing, it is dephosphorylating. So dephosphorylation means inactivation of this MLCK. So inactivation means there won't be much contraction. You say in which type of angina we can give this. Pause this video and think. Here it is like it is reducing the contraction. So which one? Contraction means. Okay, let's continue this again. So mostly we use this as a vasospastic angina drug, but we will use in three types of anginas: stable, unstable, and vasospastic. So when it is decreasing this one, it will relax my vascular smooth muscle. Once again, I will say the whole cycle, ma. First one, the main function of nitrates are vasodilation. That means relaxation of vascular smooth muscles, mainly vascular smooth muscles. We can say smooth muscles also. Okay, vasodilation. So, vasodilation means it is the function of parasympathetic nervous system. In okay, so let's come back to our nitrates. Nitrates, when they enter into the cell of our smooth muscle, what it will do, it is converted with the help of some enzymes in the cell. It is converted into nitric oxide, and this nitric oxide is converted into guanyl cyclase enzyme. Okay, what this guanylyl cyclase enzyme will do, it will convert GDP into GTP. Okay, so it will convert this into, it will increase when it is converting GDP, it will increase my CGMP, which is my secondary messenger of parasympathetic nervous system. So what it is doing, if it is increasing, it is dephosphorylating my MLCK. Okay, what is MLCK function? It will, the main function of this MLCK is, it will activate myosin. When it is activating the myosin, it will also, myosin will activate the actin, which will help in contraction of the arteries. Okay, but as this is increasing, this is reducing the phosphorylation of MLCK. That means there won't be any contraction. So eventually you will get relaxation in your vascular smooth muscle. Okay. So now this is the function of nitrate. This is the mechanism of organic nitrates. So how it is helping in body, in my heart. First one, it will help in three ways. First one is preload reduction. Second one is afterload reduction. And third one is redistribution of coronary flow. So let's see our preload reduction. In this preload reduction, what my nitrates will do, it will dilate. I already told you it is vasodilator. So it will dilate my veins. Okay. More than arteries, it will dilate the veins of the heart. Then when it is dilating, it will be pooling the blood, peripheral blood. Okay, when it is pooling, it will decrease the venous returns. I already told you, when there is decrease in venous returns, the pressure of the blood in the arteries or veins will get reduced. Okay, so eventually it will reduce my preload. Okay, so when it is reducing the preload, it will reduce the end diastolic size and also pressure on my arteries and veins. Okay, so when it is dilating veins, it is showing action on arteries also, isn't it? Now the pooling of blood will get reduced. So what will happen? Venous returns are reducing. So when the venous returns are reduced to my heart, what will happen? Eventually the blood flow will reduce, isn't it? So reduced in preload. So there won't be more stretch. So the heart won't take that much of stretch, isn't it? Then my end diastolic size will reduce. Okay, contraction, diastole contraction, that will get reduced, and my pressure on my walls, my veins and arteries will get reduced, and my cardiac work will be reduced, isn't it? The load on my heart will be reduced. And the next one is after load reduction. In this, what will happen? It will also produce some arterial dilation, not arteries, it is arterial dilation. So when there is arterial dilation, it will decrease the peripheral load and also afterload. Okay, and the next one is redistribution of coronary flow. You will be having arteries trees, think these are my arteries to my heart. Think this is my heart and these are the arteries, and you will be having more branches and branches which are going into perforating into my heart. Okay, I hope you know what is perforation, isn't it? And going into my heart, myocardium and everywhere. Okay, so this is going into my myocardium, like it is going like a tree. That is arterial tree. Okay, what they will do, they will be relaxing this conductions in the arteries. Okay, when they are relaxing this conductions in this arteries and arterioles, what will happen? The resistance on the vessels will get reduced. Okay, the resistance will get, means there won't be much pressure on my heart, in simple words. So this is the mechanism of action which I have explained you. So this is the cell of the smooth muscle. Okay, ma. So I will nitrates indirectly will also reduce the intake of this calcium into the muscle cell. So when there is less calcium entry influxes, the contractions will also decreases. Okay, ma. Now this is MLCK. It is reduced when this get dephosphorylated. It will inactivate the myosin, and when this myosin will get inactivated, it will inactivate actin, and there will be less contraction. Okay. So let's see the pharmacokinetics of organic nitrates. It is lipid soluble. As this is lipid soluble, we can't say that this is highly lipid soluble, this is moderate lipid soluble. So in some conditions, it may cross our blood brain barrier also. Okay, and it is well absorbed in my intestine, skin, and buccal mucus. Okay, and it is mostly we will take it as orally. Okay, it will go into first pass metabolism in liver. It is metabolized in liver and excreted through urine. So let's see the adverse effects. Adverse effects mostly fullness of head, because why we are getting this fullness of head? Because it is a little amount of the drug is crossing our blood brain barrier, BBB also. That's why we will have this throbbing headache, flushing and rashes, weakness, sweating, palpitation, and dizziness and fainting. The person will also faint. And headache is the most common side effect of this nitrates, organic nitrates, because it is crossing my brain barriers, isn't it? That's why. And if the person is in high dose, one more thing, this organic nitrates, first we have to start with low dosages, and we can give a gradual increase in dosage. But in some conditions we will start with high dosages also. Okay, that will cause postural hypotension, facial flushing, tachycardia. Okay, when we are taking this phosphodiesterase type 5, this will inhibit the nitrates, action of nitrates. You may ask, madam, why we are reducing the action of nitrates? Why we are inhibiting the nitrates? In some conditions, the person will go into drastic hypotension. That hypotension will cause even death also. To avoid that, we will give this a phosphodiesterase type 5 inhibitor. Okay. The next one is tolerance. In this tolerance, what will happen? This nitrates, where our blood vessels will get resisted to our this organic nitrates very easily. That's why we have to take it in nitrate free intervals. Like it should be like 8 hours gap between each dosage. If I'm taking today morning, after 8 hours or at the night I have to take this. That's nitrate free interval. So you have to give interval. Previously they used to say it should be 8, but nowadays the person who have the severe angina, They are taking this for 6 hours, 7 hours also. Okay. And dependency. So when the person who are withdrawing this organic nitrates, they have to do it gradually, because the person can't withdraw this drug all of a sudden. This will cause spasm in our coronary arteries and periphery blood vessels. So this will also cause heart attack. To avoid that one, we have to withdraw this organic nitrates very slowly. Okay, ma? So let's see the uses. The first use is angina pectoris. We already know that. In that, first one is aborting and terminating the angina pectoris. Okay. So within 3 minutes, when we take, if the patient came with severe angina, the person have this chest pain, arm pain, and neck pain, and each and every symptom, and the person is unable to he's unable to walk. At that condition, when we are giving this type of drug, it will show within 3 minutes the person will be normal, not absolutely normal. The person will reduce his symptoms, everything, like pain in the chest and everything will be reduced in most of the patients, not in each and every patient. So in most of the patient, but in some patients it won't show immediate relief, so it will take 9 minutes also. For that, we have to take another dosage. Okay. Next one is acute coronary syndrome. This acute coronary syndrome is like suddenly the patient won't get this oxygen supply due to this coronary blockage. Mostly this will happen in this atherosclerotic patients. Okay, the oxygen supply will be reduced. At that time, we will give this nitrates. Excuse me. So next one is myocardial infraction. What is myocardial infraction, ma? To the myocardium layer, the blood supply will be reduced. Okay. At that time, we will take this organic nitrates, which will relieve the chest pain and pulmonary congestion. Okay, and also it will give the sufficient oxygen supply to our heart, so the oxygen balance will be there. Next one is CHF and acute LVF, left ventricular failure. You already know what is CHF. It is congestive heart failure. Okay, ma? So nitrates will reduce the venous pooling of blood. So venous returns will be reduced, and when this venous returns are reduced, preload will be reduced. Due to this preload, the first one, and diastolic volume will be reduced. Okay, and it will improve. So when we are taking this nitrate, this will improve my left ventricular function also. So the next one is biliary colic. What is this biliary colic? So we will get bile, right? So some gallstones will obstruct this bile. Okay, when it is obstructing this bile, the function of bile won't be complete. At that time, we will give this organic nitrates. Okay. So what it will do? The vessel size, the duct size will be increased. Vasodilator, right? That's why it will dilate. So when it is dilating, the flow will be again normal. Okay, esophageal spasm. So someone will be having this esophageal, some patients have this esophageal spasm. What they will do before eating, they will take this organic nitrate. At that time, it will relax the esophagus. Okay, for example, sorry, esophagus. So for example, if the patient have this esophageal spasm, what will happen? This esophagus will be in contracted stage only. It won't get relaxed at all. So when there is only contraction, if I'm eating anything, will that go into my stomach? No, right? That's why the person should take this organic nitrates, which is a vascular relaxant, smooth muscle relaxant. Esophagus is a smooth muscle, isn't it? That's why it will relax the esophagus. Next one, which is my beta blocker. So the main function of beta, let's see the mechanism of action of beta blocker, what it will do. So when I'm taking this beta blocker, the main function of this beta receptor, beta adrenergic receptor is our epinephrine, which is called as adrenaline, will go and bind to my beta adrenergic receptor. And the function of this epinephrine, which is going and binding to beta receptor, is to increase my heart rate, and also it will increase my blood pressure. Okay, so it, as it is increasing my blood pressure and heart rate, my angina will increase, preload will increase, afterload will increase, and eventually my heart will stop beating. To avoid that, I am giving this beta blockers. Okay, when I'm giving this beta blockers, it will competitively will go and bind to beta adrenergic receptors. They will block them. So when they are blocking the receptors, my epinephrine won't go and bind to that beta receptor. Eventually it will favor in redistributing the blood there only, and also decrease ventricular wall tension, which will decrease my cardiac work. So we can take any beta blockers except few beta blockers like pinidelol. Why I'm not taking this pinidelol? Because it is intrinsic sympathomimetic active. Okay, it will show intrinsic sympathomimetic activity. When it is showing sympathomimetic activity, what is sympathomimetic activity? It will it will agonize the beta receptor. That means it won't block actually. It will favor the beta receptor. So myocardium demand will increase and it will worsen my angina. Okay, that's why I won't take this pinidelol. Okay. So adverse effects. The main adverse effect of this is hypotension. The person, sometimes they go into drastic hypotensive or hypoglycemic conditions. Okay, so when we are taking this one, we have to be very careful. And bradycardia also. Next one is calcium channel blockers. The name itself says it will block the calcium channels. So before knowing this, how this is blocking the calcium channels, let's see the calcium channels present in our smooth muscles. Three types of calcium channels which are present in our smooth muscle. First one is voltage sensitive channel. Next one is receptor operated channels, and the third one is leaked channels. In voltage sensitive channel, the name itself says when there is voltage, it will starts to work. That's why voltage sensitive channel. If there is little bit of voltage also, that means if there is little bit of impulse generation also, it will start to work. Okay, this will start when the impulse is at minus 40 MV. If you have remember my electrophysiology class, which is your introduction class, in that in resting phase, it will be in minus 90 MV. Here, when the impulse is starting, it will be in middle like minus 40 MV, isn't it? Then only it will start doing function. So this will get activated at minus 40 MV. Okay, ma? And this also, in this voltage sensitivity channel also, you have again three subtypes, which is L channel and T channel and N channel. L channel is long lasting channel and T channel is transience channel, and N channel is neuronal channel. Okay. So if you see, we don't need this T and N type of channels. We need only L type because most of the voltage sensitive channels are L type. Okay. And when we are talking about this calcium channel blockers, we need only L type. That's why we are talking about L type calcium channels. If you see in the L type calcium channels, we will be having 4 subunits. One is alpha, beta, gamma and delta. 4 subunits. What are those, ma? Alpha, beta, gamma and the last one is delta. So in various areas, this beta and alpha subunits will be changing. For example, for instance, if it is cardiac muscle, the N channels will be alpha 1, okay, and alpha 2, gamma and beta. If it is smooth muscle, then it will be alpha 1, alpha 2, gamma, beta, beta 3. Okay, ma? So we need mostly this cardiac muscle. Okay, so these are the subunits which we have. Next one is receptor operated channels. These calcium channel blockers will get activated when there is adrenaline. Then these channels will get activated. Next one is leak channels. So the name itself says that it will leak the calcium ions into the cell. In some conditions, when the cell is in resting stage, some amount of calcium is leaked into the cell, which is pumped afterwards. It will be pumped out of the cell with the help of calcium ATPase pump. Okay. How this calcium ions will come inside? Because of the stretching movement. This, when it is stretching, the calcium ions through this leak channels, they will flow inside the cell. Okay. And not only that, when this few calcium ions enter into this cell, our sarcoplastic reticulum, it will start to release more and more calcium into the cell. Okay, ma? Next one is, so this calcium channel blockers. In this calcium channel blockers, we have 3 drug groups. One is phenylalkylamines and the next one is benzothiazepines, not benzodiazepines, benzothiazepines. Okay, and dihydropyridines. We have 2 types of pyridines in this calcium channel blockers. One is dihydropyridines and non-dihydropyridines, but mostly we will concentrate on this dihydropyridines only. Okay, they will go and bind to this alpha 1 receptor. If you see here, this is, if you see the diagram, this is alpha 1 subunit and alpha 2, beta, this is beta, gamma, delta. Okay, so these are the subunits. So what is happening when my drug is coming in? Actually calcium will, when there is voltage, these channels will open and calcium immediately runs into the cell. Okay, but what my drug will do, it will go and bind to alpha 1 receptor. Okay, when it is going and binding to alpha 1 receptor, it will close the channel. When it is closing the channel, calcium ions can't go into this go into the cell, isn't it, ma? This is how my calcium channel blockers will help. Why I am stopping calcium? Because calcium is the main ingredient. Every time I say calcium is the main ingredient for the contraction, isn't it? So now if I stop this calcium ions entering into the cell, cells won't get contracted. So the muscle won't get contract. Smooth muscle won't get contract. Mainly vascular smooth muscle. So let's see the pharmacological action of CCBS. So it is of two. It will do two functions. One is smooth muscle relaxant. Now only we have seen it will reduce the contraction, and negative chronotropic, inotropic, and dromotropic action on heart. What is this chromotropic? Chromotropic means contraction of heart. Okay, that is called as chronotropic function. Inotropic, obstruction of ions, ion flow. Okay, any ion flow in or in. So that is ionotropic function. And dromotropic is running. Okay, the heart pumping, contraction. Okay. So first pharmacological action we will see in our smooth muscles. In smooth muscles, what it will do? It will reduce the intracellular availability of calcium. How? It is avoiding the flow of calcium into the cell. That is how it will reduce the intracellular flow. So when there is less intracellular flow of calcium, it will only relax, isn't it? Next one, heart. In heart, what will happen in ischemia? There will be more calcium influxes into the vessels. So what our drug will do? It will stop the, it will stop the intracellular calcium influxes into the vessels. This is how it will reduce the after load also. The first drug is verapamil. So what verapamil will do? It will dilate the arterioles and decrease the total peripheral resistance. And not only that, it will reduce SA node, SA function, like it will reduce the threshold on the SA, which is our pacemaker. So when there is more electrical stimulus, it will be heart will contract fast, right? So this will also slow the conduction of, AV node and SA node. So when we are giving this calcium channel blockers, we should remember that we should not give along with beta blockers. Why? The other functions, indirectly calcium channel blockers will also depress the heart. Cardiac depressant, it is used as cardiac depressant because when there is less calcium, it won't beat properly, isn't it? When we are taking this calcium channel blockers more, gradually my heart will go into depressant. Okay, to avoid that, we should not take, because in beta blocker also we have seen it will go into hypotension, the blood pressure will reduce, so the cardiac contraction will be reduced. So when we are giving this calcium channel blocker, at the same time beta blockers, the person may the person heart may stop beating. To avoid that, we should not give these two drugs at a time. Okay, ma? Next one, benzodiazepines. In this benzodiazepines, the same thing. It will reduce the rate of firing in SA node. Obviously, when there is less firing in SA node, it will slow AV conduction also. Okay. So what it will do? This will relieve the coronary artery spasm. Okay, so when there is when it is relieving this coronary artery spasm, the coronary arteries will get relaxed, so you will it won't harm your heart when you are doing any lifting or anything. It won't harm your heart. So mostly we will use this benzodiazepines in variant angina. So the same action, ma, here what this nifedipine will do, dihydropyridine. Okay, nifedipine. The example of this dihydropyridine is nifedipine. Okay, this will have very short duration, and what it will do, it will dilate the arterioles. When it is dilating the arterioles, the total peripheral resistance will be reduced. Okay, so the ADRs of this adverse effects of this calcium channel blockers are palpitations, irregular heartbeat and flushing, ankle edema. The edema will be near only ankle area in our leg. And hypotension, I already told you, it will depress our heart. And headache, drowsiness and nausea. Why headache? This will also cross our, this is also blood lipid soluble, that's why it will cross our blood brain barrier. Okay, pharmacokinetics, we will it is mostly we will give this orally only, and we will obtain the peak within 1 to 3 hours, and it will go into first pass metabolism, and it is distributed by binding to plasma protein, metabolized in liver and excreted through urine, and elimination T half is 2 to 6 hours. Okay, so let's see the uses of this calcium channel blockers. We can give this calcium channel blockers to any lung disease patient, but we should not give to the patients who have this, to whom we are giving this beta blockers, we already know. And it is mostly used in angina pectoris. Okay, hypertension, cardiac arrhythmia. In cardiac arrhythmia, if the cardiac rhythms are not proper, then we have to go for this calcium channel blockers, so that mostly this cardiac arrhythmias will be like faster heartbeat, right? So that will be reduced. And hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. Hypertrophic means enlargement of ventricles. Okay, when there is enlargement of ventricles also, at that time we need less contraction of heart. When there is more contraction, this will harm the ventricular walls. Next one is potassium channel openers. We already know when calciums enter inside, potassium ions will go outside. Potassium ions act as a negative charge. So when there is potassium ions, there will be only relaxation. When there is resting membrane potential, then we will be having potassium ions in our cell. So that's the reason, to relax, we will give this potassium channel openers. That's the mechanism. So we will take this drug orally. This is metabolized in our liver and excreted in urine. And we can give this for angioplast patients, angioplast and myocardial infarction, we will give it as IV. Okay, and adverse drug reactions of this potassium channel openers are flushing, palpitations, weakness, headache, dizziness, and nausea and vomiting. So previously I have just skipped cyanide poisoning, ma. So why I have skipped? Because it will take little while. So we will get diverted from this topic. So I have skipped that one, which is the use of organic nitrate. Okay. So let's see cyanide poisoning. What is cyanide? Actually, cyanide is a poison. So what will happen if we are taking cyanide? So after taking the cyanide, we have little history about the cyanide. Previously, some any terrorist or anyone, if they want to enter into our India in world wars or like that, at that time they used to take this cyanide pill. They used to keep that cyanide pill under their tongue. So if anybody caught them, and if they have situation that they have to reveal their country secret, then they used to swallow this cyanide pill, which will kill them. So what is happening at that time? Within few seconds, the person will die. So in that stage, what is happening? Actually, our cyanide will go and bind to our Fe3, which is ferric ion. Okay, ma? To know this, what is ferric ion and everything, first we have to know what is methemoglobin and what is methemoglobin anemia. Okay, so first let's see what is methemoglobin anemia. If the levels of methemoglobin is increased in this blood, then it is called as methemoglobin anemia. So methemoglobin, what is methemoglobin here? So methemoglobin is nothing but, if actually our hemoglobin will be having four globulins. One is Fe2 plus. There will be four globulins of Fe2 plus, which is ferrous iron. Okay, heme means nothing but iron, right? So that heme is made up of four globulins. Okay, that's why it's called as hemoglobin. In methemoglobin, instead of 4 Fe2 plus, you will be having 3 Fe2 plus and 1 Fe3 plus. So what is happening? What is the function of ferrous and ferric? Okay, the action of ferrous is they will go and bind to the oxygen molecules which are in hemoglobin. The main function of hemoglobin is to carry oxygen molecule to each and every cell through blood streams. Okay, ma? So here what my ferrous iron is doing, as it will be in hemoglobin, it will go and bind to the oxygen molecule. It's like a postman. So it will carry the oxygen molecule and it will drop near each and every cell. When it is dropping, our cell will take it. It will do aerobic respiration. Okay, ma? But what if one ferrous iron is replaced with one ferric iron? So here what will happen? This is weak oxygen lover. Okay, this doesn't love oxygen and it won't catch oxygen only. So when it is not catching oxygen, here only three molecules are carrying oxygen. So if it think, if one molecule condition is this, what about other molecules? Even they will go through this, right? Three ferrous and one ferric. At that time, the oxygen molecules will get reduced. Okay, the carrying of oxygen molecules will get reduced. Eventually, our cells won't get oxygen, so cells won't do respiration and they will go into apoptosis. Okay, this is the main function. So let's come back to our cyanide poisoning. When you see this cyanide poisoning, what the cyanide will do? First of all, it will go and bind to, it loves ferric iron. So wherever you see this ferric iron, it will go and bind to that ferric iron. Okay, ma. Actually, our ferric iron won't be here only. In cells also, you will be, through some oxidation process, they will be converted into ferric iron. Okay, I will talk about this when I am taking about iron chapter. You do have iron class also. So I will explain this ferric and ferrous completely in that chapter. Okay, ma. So now cyanide loves ferric iron. So it is going in binding to this ferric iron. When it is going in binding here, and not only here, it will go and bind in cell also. But that is later stage. After taking this poison, if the person approaches any hospital within few minutes, that means my cyanide is going and binding to only ferric, which is in hemoglobin, not in each and every cell. So the later stage will be, it will go and bind to each and every cell which is containing this ferric iron. So what will happen when it is going and binding there? Actually, after this ferric iron, it will convert, it will do oxidation and it will convert into ATP, which you don't need now. So don't remember all those things. When it binds to ferric iron, the person will go into coma, first stage, and then he will die. If he approaches hospital sooner, then there will be chances to survive. Okay, ma, but he will be facing little anemia because nevertheless we have to approach hospital as soon as possible. Okay, so let's see the cycle. So after taking this, how our nitrates are helping in cyanide poisoning? So we have hemoglobin. So if I don't have any methemoglobin in my body, like I am very healthy, okay, but some condition, like I told you, that it will come from fire, and sometimes if I take a lots of almonds or a lots of apple seeds, if you have seen this mom movie, uh, so if we are taking so much of apple seeds, uh, that is cyanide. Okay, so if I am taking so many apple seeds, that is converted into cyanide. Okay, and not only that, if I'm taking many almonds, three foods which contain this cyanide, one is apricot, the other one is apple seeds, and the third one is almonds. So when you are taking this dry fruits and this seeds, remember this one. And if I'm very healthy, my hemoglobin is in hemoglobin stage only, it haven't converted into methemoglobin. Okay, and if I take cyanide, that will go and bind to this and I will die. So instead, what I am doing, I am taking this sodium nitrate. So when I am taking this sodium nitrate, my hemoglobin is converted into methemoglobin. Okay, when cyanide is binding with this methemoglobin, it when you have options outside the cell, why it will go inside the cell? So it won't go inside the cell, so outside only it will bind with this ferric iron. Okay, ma, so it will convert into cyanomethemoglobin. So what the cyanomethemoglobin will be doing in our body? So we should not take sodium nitrate alone. Along with, we should take another drug which is sodium thiosulfate. Okay, so when we are taking this sodium thiosulfate, this cyanomethemoglobin is break down into methemoglobin plus sodium thiocyanide. Our methemoglobin is safe in our body. This sodium thiosulfate is taking this cyanide, and it is binding to that cyanide, and it is dragging that cyanide and taking through, it is eliminating that cyanide through our urine. Okay, ma? So you may ask, madam, why we are taking sodium nitrate and sodium thiosulfate? Why can't we take only sodium thiosulfate? If we are taking only sodium thiosulfate, we won't have this phase. Okay, if we won't have this phase, hemoglobin will be there, and you won't have any ferric iron. If you don't have ferric iron in our hemoglobin, our cyanide will try to enter our cells. Okay, so when it is going into our cell, that will cause us more danger. Within few minutes, the patient will die. Okay, that's why previously they used to say, right, if we keep cyanide on tongue only, we will die. That's the reason they are going into the cell and they are binding to our ferric iron. Okay, ma? So that's why first we have to take sodium nitrate so that it will convert hemoglobin into methemoglobin. And after converting methemoglobin, this cyanide will bind to this methemoglobin and it will be converted into cyanomethemoglobin. Okay, then we have to give this sodium thiosulfate. Then this methemoglobin and sodium thiocyanide will get separated, and sodium thiosulfate, it will drag this cyanide. By binding to this cyanide, it will become sodium thiocyanide, and this drug will drag into our urine and it will get eliminated and the patient will be safe. This is the mechanism of cyanide poisoning, ma. Okay, I hope you understood. um, Take care, ma. Be safe and enjoy your day. Thank you very much.